fall in the percentage of the indigenous white British population. Can you explain what your worry is and define what the indigenous white population is, please?
So I'm just wondering, have you even the slightest scintilla of sympathy, compassion and concern about these poor, wretched souls who end up on our shores with absolutely nothing, that have fled oppression, warfare and extreme poverty?
This was the right-wing think tank Migration Watch being interrogated by the Liberal establishment and Labour in Parliament. Any illusions you had that this government has any interest in stopping the boats or lowering immigration should be instantly erased from your mind after watching this video. Migration Watch were questioned after they said Labour's smash the Gans policy would lead to more people coming here. We all know that's true. It's clear the people asking the questions are hostile to anyone who wants to control or lower immigration. They do not believe we should even have borders. This guy said if immigration carries on the way it is, the indigenous white British population will soon be a minority in their own country. The Labour Minister of State for Border Security then asks him to define what he means by indigenous white British population. He doesn't answer because he's terrified of being called racist, so I'll answer it for him. It is people of Anglo-Saxon, Viking and Celtic heritage whose families have lived here and shaped these isles for at least the last 1,000 years. The fact she can't answer that question speaks volumes about what she thinks. Then another odious MP asks him, do you not have the slightest bit of compassion for those poor souls crossing the Channel? They have travelled through multiple safe countries to get here, he replies. And I'll add to that, they are not our responsibility. We cannot take in the world, and nor should we. We are not a migrant camp that anyone who wants a better life can just move to whenever they feel like it. We don't know who they are, where they come from, and we've already taken in enough people. If he wants them here, he can take them in his house, but he should be held complicit in any crimes they commit. The fact is, the established narrative in this country is we should just be one big migrant camp with no borders. That is a widely held view across the political parties in the UK Parliament. Until we change that narrative, nothing will change. Take a listen.
Minister Dame Angela Eagle.
Thank you very much. Migration Watch and their website, it says that you're worried about population projections and you worry about a significant fall in the percentage of the indigenous white British population. Can you explain what your worry is and define what the indigenous white population is, please?
First of all, I'm a first-generation migrant. I came here as an 8-year-old. I've been here since the mid-50s. The population, the immigrant ethnic minority element of the population in those days was something like 4%. In the 1951 census, it was actually 3.9%. It is now 25%, and that has substantially happened over the last 30 years. What worries me, if that's the right word, is the fact that there are people being added to the population, and migration is the only driver of population increase at the moment, which is what it is. And I know you've got David Coleman coming up next, and he will more about the evolution of the population. I see it now changing very rapidly into something that the majority of people in this country do not want to happen.
Well, you still haven't told us what indigenous means, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.
I'm just wondering if the panel would agree with me that there's going to be increasing demand to come to the UK from right across the world. We're not going to deal with war-torn situations. We're not going to deal with oppression and absolute poverty. So people are going to continue to move in. The movement of peoples has never been so profound as it has been in the last decade. So I don't know exactly how you plan to stop that, but if I'm unfairly characterising your view, you can correct me, but your view is it shouldn't get into the UK and they should be stopped either in the sea or the minute they arrive in the UK, and at that point they should be booted out to somewhere, if that's not Rwanda, some other favourable other country, or just put back to country of source. Is that roughly your view? Just shake your head or nod. Is that roughly your view? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So I'm just wondering, have you even the slightest scintilla of sympathy, compassion and concern about these poor, wretched souls who end up on our shores with absolutely nothing, that have fled oppression, warfare and extreme poverty?
So, I mean, if I can come back, I do have sympathy with them. I do sympathise. I would probably, many of us I suspect would do the same thing. My issue is they have travelled through a great many countries to make it to the UK. We used to have the UNHCR resettlement programme when we did have control of our borders. I was a big fan of that. I went to Canada and studied it for 3 years, where you are actually searching the world, working with the UNHCR to identify the most vulnerable people and set a cap on the numbers that you can take. And that was going in Canada, that was going in Australia, the UK. You look at the UNHCR website and see the numbers of people that are going through that programme now. They're not getting resettled, and the reason they're not is because the business model's been taken over by the smugglers. And that's why we're getting large numbers of young men who can afford to cross multiple borders and pay smugglers to get here. So I would like to see a return to the system where we have got control of those irregular routes, and then we can start looking, as Carl said, at reintroducing the UNHCR resettlement programs, go to the UNHCR and take a certain quota into the UK in a managed way.
There are, just out of Syria recently, out of Gaza, there are going to be potentially 2 million people who would like some comfort. So they would like to move to somewhere a bit more convivial than Gaza is at the moment. But why is it, if I may ask the question, why is it assumed that because people like us advocate control and discouraging people a lot of the time from risking their lives, not just across the channel, but